And we're live. You want to get going?
Yeah.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to the December 17th, 2020 Historic Resources Commission meeting. My name is Luke Mortensen, and I'll be facilitating the Zoom video portion of the meeting tonight. Participating live from the City Commission room with me is Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. We will work alongside the chair, who is on remote video, to facilitate the meeting proceedings. Currently, I have everyone muted so we can talk through the general ground rules for tonight's meeting. This meeting is being recorded and broadcast live on the city's YouTube channel. During the meeting, please mute yourself by clicking on your microphone icon found on the lower left-hand corner of the Zoom menu next to the video icon. When you are muted, a red line will appear over that icon. This will make it easier for everyone to listen to the meeting. Just remember to unmute it if and when you want to speak. In the menu, you can also turn your camera on or off by clicking the video icon located next to the microphone icon. For the purposes of this public meeting, please keep your video on for the duration. If you're participating by phone, you can enter *6 to mute and unmute your phone. Somewhere on your Zoom screen, you will also see a choice to toggle between speaker and gallery view. Speaker view shows the active speaker. Gallery view tiles all of the meeting participants. Commissioners, you must state your name and title each time you speak. Members of city staff must also state their name and title each time they speak. I would ask the applicants and members of the public to identify themselves each time before they speak to ensure that everyone is able to follow along. When public comment is sought on an item, individuals participating via Zoom should use the raise your hand feature. Windows and Mac users can access this feature through the participants button at the bottom of their screen. Android and iPhone users can access this feature through the More button located at the bottom right-hand corner of their screen. For those calling in by phone, you may dial *9. Individuals will be called upon by name in the order they appear on the meeting host screen. When you are called on, please unmute your listening device and state your name before speaking. The chair will then call for in-person public comment for those who are physically present. Staff will direct those to the podium to speak while following social distancing and safety protocols. The regular 3-minute time limit will apply. All motions will need to be stated clearly. After a motion is made and seconded, the chair will call on each commissioner individually to provide their vote. Staff will then need to announce whether the motion carried and the count of the vote. I'd like to remind everyone to please mute yourself when you're not speaking. And at this point, I will turn the meeting over to Chair Meyer.
This is Jody Meyer, Chair of the Historic Resources Commission. Welcome to our December 17th, 2020 meeting. I'm going to go ahead and do a roll call of the commissioners that are present. Sarah Holder.
Present.
Brenna Buchanan-Young.
Here.
Chad Foster.
Here.
Jody Meyer, obviously. And I know that Kent Fry is not present tonight. He had a death in the family. And I believe Kelly Irby is not here. Is that correct, Lynn?
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. No, she has not signed in yet.
Okay, this is Commissioner Meyer again. We'll go ahead and proceed with tonight's agenda. Have we received communications from other commissions, the State Historic Preservation Officer or the general public?
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, you have in your packet a communication from the State Historic Preservation Office about the Zimmerman Building National Register nomination. Historically, the Historic Resources Commission has reviewed these applications and nominations and provided comment to the Historic Sites Board of Review, typically in a letter of support. So staff would ask for you to discuss that item. You also have 2 communications dealing with Red Rock. I'm not sure that it was clear that this commission is not reviewing that project. That's a city commission project. And so this commission does not have any action to take on that this evening.
This is Chair Meyer. Was there any public comment on these items?
Luke Mortensen, Planning and Development Services. There's no in-person public comment, and it does not appear that there is any Zoom public comment.
Okay, this is Chair Meyer again. I'll bring it back to the commission for discussion. I know that I've read the communications from the SHPO about the Zimmerman steel building, and I would be supportive of submitting a letter in support of that. Any other commissioners?
I agree. I would recommend supporting the nomination.
This is Commissioner Holder. I also agree.
I would support as well.
All right, this is Chair Meyer again. I don't know if we need a formal motion, but I'll go ahead and move that we do send a letter in support of the Zimmerman steel nomination. Is there a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that?
Sorry, Commissioner Buchanan, second.
Okay, thanks. I'll go ahead and take a roll call vote then, since there's been a motion and a second. Commissioner Holder,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
and it's an aye from Commissioner Meyer. So that motion carries 4-0. Lynn, will you prepare something and I guess send it to me for signature as the chair?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, I will prepare a letter of support and send it to the chair for signature.
Thank you. All right, Chair Meyer again. The other item of communications regarding the rock, my position, I think, is as Lynn stated, that that's sort of beyond the purview of our body, and probably a lot of people don't know that. So that's, I guess my take on it would be not to make that an action item, but I'll leave that up to the other commissioners for discussion. If there is any, maybe there isn't any.
Is I will add, I agree that it's not for tonight or this commission, but then I understand the confusion. We are the Historic Resources Commission, and it is a historic resource of the city. So I understand why they would be confused, I guess, is what I'm saying.
Sure. All right. Well, I don't, since no one else is saying that we should take any action on it, then I think we should just move on to the next agenda item, unless someone objects. All right. Well, I consider it no one objecting. So we will then move on to disclosure of ex parte communications. Does anybody have any disclosure? All right. Hearing none, then we will take the declaration of abstentions for any specific agenda items by commissioners. Is anybody abstaining from any agenda items this evening? Okay, I don't see any abstentions. Then we'll move on to committee reports. Do we have any committee reports this evening?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. We have no committee reports for this evening.
All right. Then we will move on then to the consent agenda. And there are a number of design review applications that have been administratively reviewed and approved by staff. Lynn, do you have anything else to say about that?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Kyle Kobe and myself would be happy to answer any questions that you may have about any of these administrative reviews.
This is Chair Meyer again. Is there any public comment on this particular item, the design review applications?
Luke Mortensen, Planning and Development Services. There's no in-person public comment and there are no Zoom public comment requests.
Okay, this is Chair Meyer again. Then we'll bring it back to the commission for any discussion or motion.
This is Commissioner Foster. I will move to confirm the administrative reviews.
Great. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Holder. I second.
Okay, since there's a motion and a second, we'll go ahead and take roll call vote on that. Commissioner Holder,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan Young,
Aye.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meyer votes yes. So that motion carries 4-0. Okay, coming to the next item on the agenda, which I guess is general public comment. Lynn, is there any general public comment tonight?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. We have no one in the commission room for public comment, and there's no one raising their hand on the Zoom for public comment.
Okay, Chair Meyer again. We will then move on to public hearing items. We'll start with the first one, DR 20-416, which is 1330 Rhode Island Street.
Good evening. It's Kyle Kobe with Planning. This application proposes demolition of an accessory structure at 1330 Rhode Island Street. This item's been placed on the agenda for your consideration without the structural and cost analysis typically required for these types of applications, due to the apparent state of the structure and the fact that it is not listed as a contributing structure to the district. Rehabilitating the structure would likely require rebuilding a significant portion of the walls, replacing all of the wood material on the structure, and a full replacement of the roof. Because the existing structure is non-contributing to the district and the proposed demolition meets the applicable standards for review, staff's of the opinion that the proposed project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards and recommends the commission approve the request to demolish the accessory structure located at 1330 Rhode Island Street. I'd be happy to answer any questions you may have, and the applicant is here with us tonight as well via Zoom.
This is Chair Meyer again. Would the applicant like to make any comments? Okay, I don't know.
Okay.
No.
This,
Sorry, is that a no?
yes,
Okay,
yes, it's a no.
all right, all right, thank you. This is Chair Meyer again. Lynn, was there any public comment on this item?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. There's no one in the commission room to make public comment, and no one has indicated they would like to make public comment on the Zoom call.
Thank you. This is Chair Meyer again. Then we will bring it back to the commission for discussion or motion.
I would like to make a motion. This is Commissioner Holder. I move that in accordance with the Secretary of Interior standards, the standards of evaluation, or I'm sorry. I move that the commission approve the proposed project and make the determination that it does not damage or destroy any historic property included in the National Register of Historic Places or the State Register of Historic Places.
Okay, this is Chair Meyer. Is there a second?
This is Commissioner Foster. I'll second.
Since there is a motion and a second, we'll go ahead and take roll call vote. Commissioner Holder,
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Commissioner Buchanan, you're muted.
Aye. Sorry.
and Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meyer is yes also. So that motion carries 4-0. Thank you for this item. We will then move on to the next item on the agenda, which is DR 20-415, 906 Alabama Street.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. This is an application for a new addition to the existing structure located at 906 Alabama Street. The property is located in District 1 of the Oread Neighborhood Design Overlay District. The project was submitted by Paul Werner Architects for JJMT LLC, the property owner of record. The applicant requests to build a two-story addition to the structure located at 906 Alabama Street. The addition will be approximately 822 square feet and will be located to the east-southeast of the existing structure. The addition will be set back from the southern property line 14 feet 6 inches. There will be a parking tray along the alley. This is separated from the addition with an 8-foot 10-inch open space, with the exception of the deck to be located on the east elevation of the addition. Primary materials include wood lap siding, smart trim, smooth panel siding, and asphalt shingles. The addition will be on a slab foundation. The proposed addition meets some of the Oread design guidelines, but it is not subordinate to the existing structure. Design refinement will allow the addition to meet the intent of the guidelines. It is possible for the height of the addition to be reduced by adding a basement to the structure and removing the second story. Additional design changes would be needed if this option is used. Staff is recommending that the commission send this project to the Architectural Review Committee to see if there are design alternatives that better meet the standards while meeting the applicant's goals. And just, I know there might be a little bit of confusion. So in your packet, there were drawings showing a front-facing gable addition. And in the staff report itself was a study done by the applicant that shows a side gable addition. And I have both of those that we can pull up for discussion if you want to look at the differences between those two as part of your discussion. And with that, I'd be happy to stand for any questions you might have.
This is Chair Meyer. Was there any public comment on this item?
Luke Mortensen, Planning Development Services. There's nobody in the room, and I don't believe, one sec.
It's online.
I don't believe there's any public comment, but the applicant is with us tonight.
This is Chair Meyer again. Thank you. Does the applicant wish to make any comments?
I do. Thank you very much. Paul Werner Architects. Lynn has put a lot of time in on this, as we have too. We started with the addition much closer to the street to give the green space setback that's required by the Oread design guidelines. Going through several revisions, it seemed more important to staff and probably to the project it's more important for the building to be set back from the face of the existing structure than the green space off the parking tray. So we moved it back, and then we moved it back further, and then we moved it back a third time, which is where we wind up today. So the front of our addition is almost 40 feet behind the porch of the existing structure. It leaves that whole south side of the existing structure exposed. You can see it. It seems that's pretty important. I mean, frankly, we think this addition, it works. I agree with Lynn. It really is all about the elevation. We did submit 2 concepts. We thought both were in the packet, but we'll talk about that. it is about where the gable faces. In the packet, the main elevation, you see the gable faces west. I think it probably does read better if the gable runs north and south and is a little bit more minimalist from the view when you're staring east at the structure. That's the elevation you'll see on page 7 of the staff report of this portion. And again, Lynn can share those elevations when we get there. I really can't blame my clients, and one of them's on the Zoom call. Moving 2 of the bedrooms from a second floor to the basement is a pretty big move. You know, basements still have problems. We build them better than we ever have, but they still get wet. It's still not the same living in a basement as living on a second floor and having more windows and just better views. And it's certainly a different environment for the tenants. You've seen several of our projects. We certainly put basements on a lot of the Oread buildings. Most of the congregate residents, they're all sprinkled. They all have fire alarms. They're much safer. Basement and residence, we really try to avoid it. So I'm struggling with, it would certainly be a shorter elevation, but putting 2 more of the bedrooms in the basement instead of the second floor. I understand my client's desire, you know, not to really do that. So again, I think when you look at the alternate elevation and run the gable north and south, I think that really helps. If you look at the floor plans, we also have a hallway along the west side of the second floor. So it complicates the construction, but we could lower the plate height of that hallway at least a foot, maybe 1.5 feet, which would also help. You know, a 7'6" tall hallway is okay. We really like 9-foot tall ceilings today. But I think, you know, in my mind, if we lowered the plate a little bit and we run the gable north and south, I think this works. It's a, you know, it's a tough structure. We're leaving it intact. I'd really like to see the HRC approve this and not go to the ARC. It's just tough. Zoom meetings are tough. It's fun to sit around a table and look at stuff, but we're not going to get to do that. But the elevation you're looking at, you know, I mean, we're all architects, designers. You guys understand the drawings. I mean, they're straight on elevations. You're never going to see that addition the way it's drawn in the elevation. You know, maybe we should have modeled it. It's a lot of time and energy, but you guys get it. That, I mean, when you're standing on the street staring at it, that rear elevation doesn't read as prominent at all as what might show in the elevation. But we would lower the plate height as much as we can, and I think you run the gable the way it's shown in the drawings, and I think then we got a pretty decent project, and we can get started. Those are my thoughts. I'm sure you'll have some questions, but I'm happy to answer it. But that would be our hope. So thanks for your time, and happy to answer any questions.
This is Chair Meyer again. Paul, I just had a question, which is, are you willing to go to ARC, or you just would rather not go to ARC?
Of course, we're willing to go to ARC. I mean, it's not that we don't want to. It's just, you know, scheduling things today seems harder than ever. And I mean, we want to do whatever you guys want to do. We want a good project at the end of the day. I would much rather go to the ARC and explain this stuff in detail. You know, if it has to be in a Zoom meeting, I don't know if we've worked around that or not. That's fine too. But I think moving the 2 bedrooms to the basement is probably a problem. I mean, I think that, I think then my clients probably rethink the project. So I would, in lieu of that, I would much rather go to the ARC and talk about some of the stuff in detail if that makes the commission happy.
Thank you. This is Chair Meyer again. We'll bring it back to the commission for discussion.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Commissioner Meyer, I forgot to mention in my presentation that you did receive a communication from the Lawrence Preservation Alliance on this item.
And this is Commissioner Foster. Are we doing public comment at this point, or is there none?
Sorry, I might have skipped over that. Is there any public comment about this item?
Luke Mortensen, Planning and Development Services. We have nobody in the commission room. And I am not seeing any Zoom requests for public comment.
Thank you. I guess I must have missed the LPA. I guess I must have missed that, Lynn.
Lynn Braddock
What's your-
Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. If you look on the item in your agenda packet, under attachments, all the way at the bottom, it's a communication from LPA dated 12/16/20.
Okay.
And this
Oh,
is
yeah,
Commissioner
okay.
Foster, and it has an image in it. Yeah, this is Commissioner Foster. If we're back to the commission, I'll jump in. I'm surprised nobody sort of mentioned the similarity of what's going on, what's proposed to the massing of an airplane bungalow, I guess, where you pop up to 2 stories in the rear, and it has, well, it's its own style, of course, that is recognized, but then also can be acknowledged it has a relatively minimal impact on, to some degree, from the street perspective. So, and mentioning that the LPA image that's in the packet, I think it's the last page of it. And I'm going to support what Paul was saying, is to not send it to the ARC, because my attitude will be probably to largely support what's been proposed. It's well detailed, well articulated, maybe a bit more massive than ideal for that neighborhood. And I certainly worked on those Oread guidelines for a long, long time with staff and some of the other members. But the image that LPA provided, I think I would rather have a well-detailed, well-articulated, a little bit large of a mass than, and I have not gone by the LPA's example, but to me it looks like a fairly non-detailed, non-articulated, smaller mass that it kind of just looks sort of like a large shed in the rear of the property. So I think what's being proposed by this applicant is a better neighbor and contributes more to the neighborhood than the other sort of example. So I guess I'm a long way of saying I support the project as it is, and would want specific direction from HRC members on what they would be wanting the ARC to accomplish.
This is Chair Meyer. Thank you, Chad. I mean, when you're talking airplane bungalows, there actually is one fairly close-ish. Was that the Ockning House? So, you know, for whatever that's worth, it's in the vicinity of that. But is there any other commissioner discussion?
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Also as a member of the ARC, I'm with Chad on this one. I think option 1 is much better than option 2, because it does reflect something that would have been characteristically built of the period. Like it's done better than option 2, where you flip that gable end and make it just something that it just seems odd and ill-fitting. So I'm a Chad, where I would recommend supporting option 1 as proposed.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. The project that was in your packet is the west-facing gable The project that was on the screen was a north-south gable, and I think that is what Paul is proposing for this project now, so that you have that side-facing gable and not the front-facing gable. Is that correct, Paul?
This is Commissioner Foster. Could you put that image back up on the screen? Because I think the labels are mixed up. I think.
So Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. So this is showing the gable running north and south. This was done as the study that was shown in the staff report.
But this is Commissioner Foster. It's showing both. So specifically, which image are you referring to?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. I'm not sure. The addition is toward at the back of the structure, and that's a north-south gable. Does that make sense?
Well, okay, this is Commissioner Foster. So I'm seeing an image on my screen that's got 5 elevations and a roof plan. And I think most of the discussion is about the center 2 images. It says option 2 proposed west, option 2 proposed new west. And the gable is either there or not facing west. Which one are we talking about?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Sorry for the confusion. I was talking about the second floor north-south gable and not the porch gable. I think the proposed west elevation shows more of a shed roof on the porch of the addition, and the bottom has a gable front on the addition. Is that clear as mud?
Kind of not. I've got to go back to the packet and look what was submitted now.
Paul Werner Architects. Lynn, can you put up option 1? What, as you point out, was the actual submittal that we thought. There you go.
Okay.
So
all right, this is good. Okay.
Paul Werner again, like I said, not to sound flip, we do think this has more merit in the gable facing west. It probably complements the structure a little bit better. And that's why we led with that, and hoping that we were going to get, a staff recommendation for approval. And if this really is all about how big the addition is on the back, option 2 does make it a smaller addition. I would agree it's not articulated as well. It's not as visually, nice, if that's the right word, from the street. This certainly is. But if it was all about, this is probably a little bit more visible, but I think this does blend in with the structure better. I like that the gables match the same direction. And that's why this was, option 1, for lack of a better word, is better than option 2. But if it had all come down to the size of the structure, and if we were really trying to minimize how much you saw it, option 2 is probably a little less visible. But this is probably designed better for a front elevation from the structure. If that
yeah, it does. Thank you. This is Commissioner Foster. So can you help me with the nomenclature on this screen? Option 1 proposed west, option 1 proposed new west.
So
what's the difference?
The lower one, they've just kind of whited out the existing building. So all you're really seeing there is the addition. To be fair, maybe it shouldn't have been on the screen. So the kind of blanked out area in the lower left of option 1, new west meaning all it's showing is the new structure, and it's whited out.
Well, okay, this is Commissioner Foster again. There's an image right above it also called option 1 proposed new west.
Yeah,
I mean,
again,
those top 2 images seem to be the same thing.
So it shouldn't say just new west elevation. It's the proposed complete new west elevation. Yeah, I'm with you. I don't, it's worded poorly.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll try to then. And again, this is Commissioner Foster. So on the new sheet, there's an option on the porch to get rid of the gable on the porch, which was discussed in the staff report. What are your thoughts on sort of minimizing that confusion on multiple front doors? So we've got the gable for the front porch, and we've got the gable for the two-story. What's the right combination? Paul.
It's probably the gable, obviously, on the existing structure stays. The gable on the second story stays, and we minimize the porch on the side, is my thought.
And so that's something we don't have an image of right now. So Lynn, could you
Probably don't have it
back to the other image so I can see the porch on the other?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. I'll have to give credit to my friend Luke, who's running the computer to work all this magic. So here you go.
Thank you.
This is Chair Meyer. Lynn, while we're getting that going, I had a question, which was the staff was recommending that the project be reviewed to ARC for just for possible design alternatives to make the addition subordinate. I mean, were there any other concerns?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator, to make the addition more subordinate, and then also to look at the fenestration on that addition, the porch area that we're talking about now.
Okay.
It seemed like that the gable front porch that's shown there is a kind of competing with the historic structure.
This is Chair Meyer. I guess I was curious, and this is really maybe more for other commissioners, about whether you think that there would be other reasons or a broader reason to go to the ARC with some of this. But I'll let the ARC members think about that.
Well, this is Commissioner Foster, and I get sort of what I was saying earlier is that if it goes to the ARC, you know, the conversation I would be focusing on would be gable direction and detail. I would not have much energy myself on getting rid of the second story and pushing it to the basement, which I think is the thrust of the staff report. So that, I mean,
What I'm saying
that's
is,
my attitude.
yeah, this is Chair Meyer. I guess I was wondering if, at least for the ARC members, if they thought that there were other issues besides, you know, what you just outlined, Chad, that would warrant more discussion in the ARC. So.
None for me.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Holder. I'm not part of the ARC, but under our review criteria, I just don't see how this addition as proposed, whether it's a north-south gable direction or west, the scaling and massing just does not meet the design guidelines. And that addition is not subordinate to the original historic structure. So that would be, that's what I think our primary discussion is. The gables are secondary. I do have a preference for the north-south facing gable for the second floor. I think it makes it blend in better rather than having a front-facing gable. And it is at least an attempt to make the addition subordinate to the original structure. But I think the underlying issue here is that its scale and massing just doesn't meet the criteria.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I agree with that, and I respect the staff report. And I think that's why I've made the comments that I have, is because it's not so egregious I think there's a compromise happening here, that the second north-south kind of competing where you get a cross gable happening becomes very institutional feeling if you ever saw it built. And I think that's more out of character with the entire intent of the guidelines and the intent behind the neighborhood. I just feel like option one with the addition being the non-gabled roof. So option two, proposed west elevation, that porch roof with the gable, making it an airplane bungalow with a side addition, essentially is a more accurate typical accretion for these structures in that area. So that's why I am supportive of this proposal.
Well, and this is Chair Meyer. I will say this. I don't think the project as is makes it an airplane bungalow, just by the way. I mean, it's something totally different. I don't think it's, I mean, let's face it. I mean, it's just an addition. I mean, this lot is bigger. You know, it's not as if there's close things to it. So I think in some ways it makes it more noticeable. So I just think we have to, you know, call a spade about it. That's my 2 cents.
This is Commissioner Foster. So Brenna, would you be looking at the screen that we have now? You would be supportive of the top center image?
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Not exactly. I am supportive of the very top right, number 8, the one that's identified as 8, option 2, proposed west elevation, very top left of that porch or the roof above the porch. I think we need to turn the gable so it matches option 1.
And this is Commissioner
Sorry.
Foster. So the image right below that?
No, the Commissioner Buchanan. No. Can we go back to option 1? It's going to be so much easier if option 1 is visible.
So Paul Werner, so Brenna, you'd like option number 8 on this one with no gable on the second porch. On the
Bingo.
Right.
Okay. So I'm on board with that. This is Commissioner Foster. And so, what are we calling what we just described? This is option 1 with the option 2 porch.
Paul Werner Architects. I'd call it option 1, proposed west elevation with the elimination of the gable on the new porch.
This
Okay,
is
so
Commissioner
hold
Holder. I feel like having the second story addition with the gable really calls attention to that addition. If our attempt is to try to minimize the visual impact of that addition, I really feel that having it oriented north-south, like what we're seeing on option 2, is the better option.
Okay. And I appreciate that. I am going to attempt to make a motion, though, if I can get there. And it's going to take me a bit. It's going to take me a long bit.
Well, we've got nothing but time. Actually, this
I'm
is Chairman
scrolling.
Barrett. That's not true. We don't. You have to move quickly.
You run a tight ship. Okay.
It's hard when the language is not in front of you.
That's true. Yeah, and this is Commissioner Foster, and the staff report was written with the assumption it was going to get deferred to the ARC. So we don't have any sort of stock language to recite, which is our usual crutch. But I'm going to essentially move that the and this is a environs review, correct? Oh, it's Oread design guidelines as well. So there's probably a couple of motions that need to be made. Is that correct, Lynn?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. This is only for the Oread neighborhood design guidelines.
Okay. Then I'm going to botch this up a little bit, but I'm going to make a motion that option 1 with the simplified porch roof that does not have a gable facing west, I'm going to move that it does meet the Oread neighborhood design guidelines. I think that's a period. Is that correct, Lynn? Is that a good enough motion?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. I think that's an appropriate motion if that's your intent.
Yes, it is.
Okay, this is Chair
Thank you.
Meyer. Is there a second?
Commissioner Buchanan, second.
Since there's a motion and a second, we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Commissioner Holder,
No.
Commissioner Buchanan,
Aye.
Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meyer. That's an aye. So motion carries. Good luck. All right, then we will move on to agenda item number 3, which is DR 20-414, 1035 Massachusetts Street.
Thank you very much. Have a good night.
This is Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. This is DR 20-00414, 1035 Massachusetts Street. It's for a storefront alteration. It's a state law review, a certificate of appropriateness review, and a downtown design guidelines review. The property is located in Lawrence's Downtown Historic District, National Register of Historic Places, the Downtown Urban Conservation Overlay District, and is located in the environs of the Douglas County Courthouse at 1100 Massachusetts Street and the Watkins Bank Building at 1047 Massachusetts Street. This was submitted by Latchkey Deli LLC for John and Janice Hanna, the property owners of record. The applicant requests to remove one panel of the storefront glazing and replace it with a service window on the structure located at 1035 Massachusetts Street. The window will be located in the section of the storefront closest to the door on the ground floor entrance of the structure. The proposed storefront panel will have 2 foot 10 inches metal panel from the ground to the aluminum slider window. The window will be 4 feet 4 inches from the top of the metal panel to the top of the window. Above the window will be glass. The proposed storefront change alters the character-defining storefront display window that is important to the overall character of the downtown district. Walk-up service windows are not typical in the downtown district. The current design does not meet the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation or the intent of the downtown design guidelines. There was quite a bit of information from the applicant in your packet showing how the storefront on this structure has been altered over time. This is not a historic storefront that's there existing now. It was done sometime post 94 when the survey was done for the building. But it was done prior to 2004 when the district was listed. So this is the storefront that was listed with the building in the district. Staff worked with the applicant trying to find alternatives. They're very amenable to working with the Historic Resources Commission to try to find a solution that will allow them to have this service window and still maintain that character of the storefront. One of the reasons they would like to have that service window is so that they can better serve customers during the COVID-19 pandemic, to allow for people not to have to enter the building. As you know, there's no temporary review for projects that require review. It has to be considered as a permanent alteration, even though it could be reversed in the future. And with that, I'm happy to answer any questions that you might have.
This is Chair Meyer. Was there any public comment on this item?
Luke Mortensen, Planning and Development Services. There's nobody in the City Commission room for public comment, and there is no Zoom public comment. But the applicants are with us tonight.
All right, this is Chair Meyer again. Does the applicant wish to make any comment?
Go ahead.
Don't feel obligated.
Sorry, I'm a little new to Zoom meetings. We're down at the deli right now. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. In any case, I'd just like to emphasize some of the points that Lynn Zollner made, namely that during the course of the coronavirus pandemic, we have had to make some already significant changes to our business plan. And we want to make sure that the deli is as accessible as possible to make this a sustainable venture. I had spoken with Lynn Zollner about some alternatives, which I would definitely be interested in. Basically, we just want to make this work. We want a fair compromise, and with all due respect to the historic nature of this building, and we honor that with, as you've seen with our plans for the majority of our construction. Thank you.
This is Chair Meyer again. Thank you. I just had a question for you. Is it the intention that this be temporary, or is it your intention that that you would permanently continue using it this way?
That's something that's sort of up for debate at this point. The primary focus is during the pandemic to provide our customers with contactless curbside pickup. Outside of that, it would have other functions. For instance, if we reopen, we'd be able to switch over and, use that window for late night service or something like that without having a lot of people inside of our building. In terms of the long-term plans for it, that has not really been discussed, but it'd more or less be permanent for the next 5 years minimum when our lease is up.
Well, I guess one of my concerns is always setting standards for other people. And I guess there's lots of restaurants downtown who have contactless pickup and don't have windows. So, I mean, how significant is that to what you're trying to do? I think he's freezing up a little bit. There you go. Oh, he muted himself, I see. Accidentally.
I'm sorry, I'm having audio difficulties. Just give me a hot second here.
No, you're good.
Here, go to settings.
That's the audio setting there.
Just need to here. Go to settings.
I'm really sorry for the delay here.
No, you're okay. You're okay. And probably we can just move it to the commission for discussion.
This is Commissioner Foster. I maybe somebody more familiar with the packet than I am right now. I'm seeing two different window cut sheets in here. Trying to understand what is actually being proposed. I see a Manco window and a Columbia window, and then the Columbia window cut sheet is looking like a typical white residential window, which that color would absolutely not be appropriate for the front of the building. So I guess I'm kind of open-minded on it. If it is dark bronze, with if the materials, the framing materials and the glazing materials match the existing, considering it's all dark, I think it kind of goes away. So I guess I'm not opposed to having the window if it's done right.
This is Commissioner Holder. I also have questions about what is actually getting proposed, and it looks like someone from BG Consultants is on this call. I also would like to know what panel is going underneath. It's an aluminum panel, but I would like to know what finish is being proposed. If it's the red that's in the MAPES, or if it's a different color.
This is Jared Mann. Jared Mann with BG Consultants, representing Latchkey Deli. So apologize for the confusion with the different items that were submitted. There was a lot of back and forth with staff talking about different options. The intent would be to minimize this visually. So to Mr. Foster's comments, all of it would be intended to be the same dark bronze to match the rest of the existing storefront. So it did just disappear. It's not intended to stand out. And as far as and that would apply to the infill panel below the sliding window as well, so that it would all match. And I think, as was stated, basically disappear. You would end up with a little more metal in the middle of the glass than you have with the current single pane that's in that area. But other than that, it would still visually be open. Above that lower panel would still be glass the same color. So really would have very little visual impact. Probably most people walking down the street wouldn't notice the difference from what it looks like today.
This is Commissioner Holder. Thank you.
Yeah, this is Commissioner Foster. With that information, I would be in support of the proposal.
This is Commissioner Holder. I would also be in support of the proposal, with us also making comment so that we're not necessarily setting a standard for all storefronts. We've done that on recent proposals where we somehow qualified us that we're not issuing blanket approval for this type of scenario going forward.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I do want to support this now that there's been clarity as to what we're actually supporting. I did a little bit of kind of drive through downtown, and there are other service windows even in this block. And I've personally have been following what downtowns have been doing. Like, two-part commercial block structures are inherently meant to produce income. That's what sets them apart from other architectures. They are solely meant to sell a commodity and produce income. And I think anything that we can do to help these structures enable businesses to continue to do that, especially if it's temporary and not changing character defining elements that are original. Like, we're not removing date panels. We're not removing, it's not truly significant to it. It's really actually going to help the structure in the long term because it's going to continue to be a viable income producing place. We hope. So on those notes, yes, every decision is specific to that one decision and never to create a basis for another. I want to support this overall.
This is Chair Meyer. I guess one of the questions I have is staff's recommending it be referred to ARC to consider design options. So I'd like, I guess I wonder if that's something that the other commissioners want to do.
If this is Commissioner Foster, if we can make the stipulation
Commissioner
that,
Holder, I would,
yeah, if we can stipulate that material and color matches existing, that would be all that I would be wanting to say at the ARC.
this is Commissioner Holder. I would be willing to stipulate that right now and not send it to ARC.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I also want to have the staff approve final finishes.
Okay, this is Chair Meyer. I just want to state my, I guess, put my opinion out there about the project, which is I do agree with staff that these service windows, I understand there's a couple, I can think of one of them right now, that are down there, downtown. I don't think that they're typical. And while I'm certainly empathetic to COVID, there's plenty of businesses downtown that don't need service windows. And so I am very hesitant to approve something that sounds like it's basically going to be permanent when the request is being made. I mean, really for something alleged to be a temporary basis. And I'm very concerned about the precedent that sets in the future, but that's my 2 cents about it. So if anybody has any further discussion, we can, or there can be a motion.
This is Commissioner Foster. I'm all for making a motion, but this is going to be 3 motions that we do not have prepared for us already, I believe. If that, so this may need to be a group effort.
This is Commissioner Holder. Lynn, can each motion be made separately?
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, staff would prefer if you make each motion separately for the review associated. And for clarification for staff, you are supportive of the metal panel underneath the window as opposed to glazing?
This is Commissioner Foster. As long as it's dark, I don't care. I could see a metal panel being more resistant to somebody kicking it and cracking it, since it's a walk-up window. A back painted glass just might be more susceptible to damage, but a dark bronze matching the aluminum of the framing system would be fine by me.
This is
Lynn Braddock-Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. So would you be looking at a corrugated type panel that's shown on the drawing, or a smooth finish panel?
This is Commissioner Foster. I would recommend a smooth or lightly textured panel, definitely nothing corrugated.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I definitely respect and understand staff's question regarding glass or metal. I'm 50-50. Glass looks better, metal might function better. So as long as it's appropriate, I think it's gonna work itself out. So I'm more with a smooth panel that's lightly textured, or a back painted glass that is impact resistant.
This is Commissioner Holder. It appears that the applicant keeps indicating visually number 2. as if that was their preference for a smooth panel or lightly textured.
Sorry to interrupt you. Basically, we're open to whatever materials that would be agreeable for you. Color, material, it's fine. The main thing that we are concerned about is just getting the window operational so that we can use it. You know, whatever we need to do to match spec. I mean, even if Chairperson Lynn would be able to just give us a list of things not to use, you know, or a color spectrum, whatever it may be, we can definitely, you know, change it however you need.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I do have one question before we get too far for the applicant. How would it change if we recommended moving this to the back? I know there's a different kind of alley situation in the back of your building where you can kind of pull through Trainer's parking lot into the alley instead of it just being on the ends, which can increase the alley flow. I'm just curious if you've thought about putting it in the back instead of the front.
This is Jared Mann with BG Consultants for the applicant. The back of the building, and I don't know if there's probably not an elevation in the drawings included in the packet, but the back of the building at the first floor level, at the ground level, is all brick with the exception of just the exit door. And that exit door, there are, I think it's either 5 or 6 stairs that go down to it. The grade on the back of the building is about 3 feet higher than the floor level. So there's just really not an opportunity to do that unless you were just passing out the back door. And at that point, you know, that you might as well be using the front door.
Okay.
This is Commissioner Foster. I think there's a pretty good grade change, isn't there?
Yes,
Between
there
inside
is.
and outside?
Correct. Yeah, the grade is coming up as you go west. So it's, like I said, it's probably 3 feet higher behind the back of the building than the floor level of the building.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I've forgotten about the grade change. Sorry, I retract that question.
It's been too long since you've had pizza. Okay, so this is Commissioner Foster. And again, it's going to take help because I'm going to bungle this because I don't have the language. But in Lynn, I'm going to look to you the most to help me revise this. But first thing is certificate of appropriateness. So I'm going to move that I can't remember the verb, that we grant a certificate of appropriateness to the modified proposal.
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, it would be to approve the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed project as described this evening.
Okay, so my revised motion is that I'm going to move that we approve the certificate of the appropriateness, move that we approve the certificate of appropriateness for the proposed project as described this evening.
This is Commissioner Buchanan, second. With staff approving final finishes.
I will accept that amendment.
All right, this is Chair Meyer. There's been a motion and a second, so we'll go ahead and take a roll call vote. Commissioner Holder?
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Aye.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
And Commissioner Meyer, I'm actually a no, so the motion carries 3-1.
This is Commissioner Foster. I'm going to make the motion that we find that the proposed project as described this evening meets the downtown design guidelines. Lynn, is that right?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator, that would be appropriate.
Awesome.
This is Commissioner Buchanan. I second.
This is Chair Meyer. There's been a motion and a second, so we'll take roll call vote. Commissioner Holder?
Aye.
Commissioner Buchanan?
Aye.
Commissioner Foster?
Yes.
And Commissioner Meyer, I'm actually a no. So that carries 3-1.
This is Commissioner Foster. Is there a third motion that I need to do, Lynn?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. Yes, it would be for the state law review. So it would be to make a determination that the proposed project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation.
Okay. I'm not going to even accurately repeat that, but I'm going to move that the proposed project meets the Secretary of the Interior standards. I've already forgotten it. It's the Secretary of the Interior standards for rehabilitation, correct? I think that's right.
Is there a second?
Commissioner Holder, this is, I second.
All right. Since there's been a motion and a second, we'll take a roll call vote. Commissioner Holder,
Aye.
Commissioner Young, or Buchanan Young,
Aye.
and Commissioner Foster,
Yes.
and Commissioner Meyer is no. So that motion carries 3-1. All right. Good luck on your project.
Thank you very much.
Yes, thank you all very much for all of your work on this.
All right. That was the last item remaining on our public hearing section. So we will now move on to always my favorite part of the evening, miscellaneous items. Are there any miscellaneous items?
Lynn Braddock Zollner, Historic Resources Administrator. There are no miscellaneous items from staff.
This is Chair Meyer. Are there any miscellaneous items from commissioners?
This is Commissioner Buchanan. Happy holidays, everyone.
You too.
All right. Any other additional miscellaneous items that you can squeeze in before the new year? All right. I don't see any. So I am going to move that we adjourn. So thank you, everyone.
See you next year.
Bye.